Welcome back, friends, to Max Q Barbecue. My name is Craig, and today we're going to be cooking a brisket, but this brisket we're going to prep to fly on an airplane, carrying it back to Maryland so we can share it with our colleagues at work next week. So follow along today as we set up and prep this brisket, cook it overnight, and then get it prepped tomorrow to fly on an airplane. Our goal today is to get as much charcoal in the basket as we can possibly get to give us this long and slow burn so we can heat up this pit and not have to deal with the fire a lot during the afternoon. Only 2 minutes of propane burn and we got her going. Okay, now we got our fire started. We want to close everything up so this thing can start drafting through our pit and warming up our pit. Opening up our stack damper, closing down our pit. You should see our smoke coming out our stack now. So we got that heat flowing through our pit, starting to warm things up. Then we're going to head inside and get our brisket prepped. Welcome back, friends. The star of our show today is going to be this 17.5-pound Sam's Club USDA Choice brisket. Now you notice that it's not a prime, it's a choice. It's a full packer, so we're going to have a flat and a point. But the reason I like to use the choice briskets is that for the most part, we don't like a lot of fat, and we're going to go ahead and inject this brisket with some Cosmo Q and some other things to make it juicy. So we don't need all that inner muscle fat to help make it juicy. We're going to actually render the proteins in this brisket into a gel, which is going to make it juicy. So let's get this thing opened up and trimmed up. Okay, friends, we've finished trimming off all the fat. You can see we got a pretty good sized bowl here of pretty thick fat here. We're going to actually season this fat and render it down so we can have some beef tallow. But then the rendered portions we also use as dog treats. One of the other things that we've done is a little atypical of brisket cooks, but something we like to do is we like to go ahead and separate our flat, which is this. Now you can buy flat, brisket flats already from your butcher, from the point, which is this part up here. Now the reason we do this is we like to cook these separately so they cook a little faster and cook a little slower. And also so that we have all of these edges for burnt ends that we like to cook off and eat. So there we have it. When we come back, we'll be injecting this brisket and getting it coated down with its rub. Our injection today is going to be a can of Campbell's beef broth, which we're going to pour into this quart jar. And 1/3 cup of our Cosmo Q original brisket injection. Now the Cosmo Q brisket injection contains phosphates, and those phosphates actually cause the brisket to hold or retain moisture. There's also some enzymes in here that help with some tenderization. But we just use a quart jar and shake that up, and that's how we mix up our our injection. We may add a little bit of our rub to our injection to give it a little more seasoning as well. Our rub today starts with some kosher salt. So we're going to start with a base layer of kosher salt. We're going to sprinkle it from about 10 to 12 inches above so we get a nice even coating on that. And you notice that our briskets have a little bit of some beef broth on the surface, so it's got just a shade of moisture there already to start off with. Then we're going to follow our kosher salt with a layer of black pepper. Then we're going to follow that with a layer of some Lowry's seasoned salt. Today we're going to throw in a little kick. We're going to throw in a little bit of some Meat Church Holy Cow. One of our favorite line of seasonings is that Meat Church brand. Matt Pittman does a nice job with his seasonings. All Alrighty, I'm gonna flip these over and do the other side, and we'll meet you outside and we'll get these on the Workhorse 1957. Okay friends, we're out here with our pit. Temperature now is 300 degrees on the grill side. So we're gonna go ahead and start placing our briskets on the pit. I'm gonna have to go grab some gloves to handle these temperature probes so I can get those placed in there. Be right back. Okay, as you can see from our clock, it's about 2:33 p.m. and you've got our briskets on the pit. Go ahead and insert our temperature probes. I've had them laying in here so they're already a little warm. Take this first one and put over here in this point, sort of the thickest part of the point. There we go. And we'll do the same thing with the second one on the flat, over towards the thicker part of the flat. These were both reading about 172 degrees a minute ago, but now that we got the pit open and the briskets point flat on here, this is our moist, this will be our dry. So we'll get this on here and we're going to let the smoke do its job. Remember, we're doing a long duration burn, so we've got a full charcoal basket with some hickory splits in there, got a nice clean smoke. Sitting here, right here, letting it come in. It smells fantastic, but it's not burning my eyes or anything, so it's a nice clean smoke. Now we just need to let the Workhorse 1957 do its job. See you back when we, probably in about an hour, when we check on it and see how it's doing. Folks, we don't like to waste anything out of our $70 USDA Prime Choice brisket. So here's our trimmings, and this is, I take the trimmings after I've removed the briskets and I use them to mop up any of the leftover rub that has fallen. So we've got some of our brisket rub on here. We've got it in a half tray with about a ½ inch of water in it to keep it from cooking too fast. But we're going to put this down near the hot end of our pit, and we're going to render our beef tallow away, and we're going to be left with is some chunks of meat that actually make some pretty good dog treats. Welcome back, friends. It's been almost 2 hours. We put it on at 2:15. It's now about almost 4:08. So another 6 minutes, it'll be 2 hours. But I thought it might be a good time to go ahead and let's take a look and see what's going on inside the pit. So let's open her up and take a look. All right, everything looks good. Everything's developing very nicely. Got some apple juice here, so I'm gonna go ahead and spray it all down. And the smoke do its job. See you back in next time, probably in another hour. We'll come back and check on it again. I did put a couple of hickory splits on there, but we still had about half a basket full of charcoal. So all good on the fire front as well. Welcome back, friends. It's 5:10 p.m. It's been an hour since I last spritzed our briskets. So I want to take a peek at it and spritz them. By the way, I just restoked the fire. So got these fat side up. I think I may go ahead and grab some gloves and flip these over so I can get a little different. Our tallow is looking amazing over here. It's rendering down very, very nicely. Let me grab the camera here and bring you up closer. Our briskets. I'm gonna go get some gloves with some liners so I can flip these over. All right, see you in a bit. All right, folks, I got my gloves on with my cotton liners here, so shouldn't get too burned. So we're gonna flip our briskets over. Welcome back, friends. It is now 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. It's been a couple hours since we've touched the fire or opened the pit. The temperature is currently running about 270 degrees, so it's still running plenty great. What I wanted to do is I wanted to come out here and remove the beef tallow from the pit. So I have some hot gloves here because this is going to be very, very hot. They're looking really good. I'll probably leave them on until about 9 o'clock. That way to give us a good 7 hours of smoke, and then we'll finish them in the oven. But they got a nice bark, the fat's starting to render, and doing really good. So next time you see me, we'll probably be pulling them off. The fire's still running hot, so I'm gonna let it continue to run as long as it's generating enough heat for the barbecue. I'm gonna let it run, and then when it burns out, we'll go ahead and pull them off and bring them in and put them in the oven. Alrighty, see you back in a bit. Welcome back, friends. It is now 8:25 p.m. and it's been about 6 hours, a little over 6 hours and 15 minutes that the briskets have been on, and our temperatures are starting to fall. Our coals are just slowly burning out. Still got a good bit of coal bed, but not enough to maintain the temperature in the pit at the 200 degrees or 250 degrees that we want. So we're going to go ahead and pull the briskets off of the pit. Welcome back, friends. We've got our briskets inside. We're gonna do a couple of things here. We've got them in this one tray. I'm gonna take and sprinkle a little more of our holy cow, just to add a little more seasoning. And we're gonna open up 2 cans of beef broth to pour over it. Get those covered in that beef broth so that they can absorb that the moisture. Also have just a little bit of our smoked beef tallow. I don't like a whole lot of beef tallow, but I'm going to take a little bit of beef tallow and just kind of drizzle over it. Next thing we're going to do is go ahead and wrap this up in aluminum foil.
Good morning, friends. It's 7:06 a.m. Sunday morning. Sun's starting to come up. But more importantly, we're getting a high temperature alarm on our Thermal Works thermometer. And we're looking at our temperatures. One of our probes is at 201 and our other probe is at 198, which means that our brisket can now be, our oven can now be turned off and let our brisket rest. So we're going to come over here. We've been cooking all night at 225 degrees, and we're just going to flip the switch to all. And now we're going to let it heat soak, which means that the temperature in the ovens will come down and the temperature in the brisket will come up a little bit. But we find this is a good point to start our rest. So we're going to just turn off the oven and let our brisket rest in our oven. and watch the temperature start coming down. And then somewhere probably around 10 o'clock, 10:30 in the morning, we'll go ahead and slice.
Welcome back, friends. It's now 11 a.m. on Sunday morning, and we've just removed our brisket from its rest. The internal temperature is between 145 and 150, so it's a little bit warm, but I want to go ahead and get this sliced up and chilled down so I can get it frozen before I have to leave to go to the airport, since this is my airport traveling brisket. So let's go ahead and open this thing up, take a look at what we got here. Well, that's looking very beautiful. Very, very beautiful. So what we're going to do is we've got the point here on top. Oh goodness, look how tender that is. It is just almost fall apart in your hands tender. So we're going to lay that out here on our table. And like we like to do is we're going to go ahead and slice off our burnt ends. Look at that smoke ring, folks. Look at that smoke ring. That thing is beautiful. And we'll cut this up into some cubes. And on our burnt ends, what we like to do is we'll save them in little plastic containers. Here are the little Ziploc containers that we like to use for our burnt ends. One of the first things I like to do is take some of our au jus from our cook, put that in the bottom of our container, and then we'll carefully place our burnt ends in the container. By adding the au jus to the container, when you heat these things up, provides that extra additional moisture and flavor when you reconstitute them. And there you have it. There's our packing for our burnt ends. We've taken our flat and taken the burnt ends off of, and we squared it up, and we're cutting across the grain to get our little slices. We'll pack our slices in vacuum bags, with about 4 slices per vacuum bag, or what's equivalent to 1 meal, or maybe a meal and a half, depending upon how hungry I am. Bagged up in our vacuum seal bags, we got our burnt ends put into our Ziploc containers. However, we did put a little bit of the flat into one of our Ziploc containers to bring to our mother-in-law, who lives in Louisiana. So we'll bring that to her. Now these 2 jars are the the juice, the au jus that came off of our tray. I always like to save that in a jar, and then when I reconstitute the brisket, I'll put a little of that juice over it. I also use that juice whenever I'm making broccoli or other vegetable dishes to give it a little extra beef flavor. So there you have it. There's our airplane brisket ready to freeze, and then we'll pack it up in a suitcase, and then later today we'll bring it through in our carry-on bag, frozen, and TSA will stop and check to make sure it's frozen, and then we'll be on our way to Baltimore with the 17.5-pound smoked brisket. Just wanted to show you that our brisket made it safe and sound to Baltimore and nicely stored away in our freezer. Thanks for watching.